Welcome to Street Beat, Monday nights with the Modern Dance Music Research and Archiving Foundation. Today, we are so pleased to have one of the major pioneers of house music, Kirkland Townsend, in the house today, joining us with both myself and Cameron, our intern here. We are so pleased to be spending our summers at WNUR. Check us out. Call us at 847-866-WNUR. Stream us live at WNURstreetbeat.org. And tell your friends. Come on, check us out. We are here all summer, Mondays, 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock, spreading the history of house music, celebrating the history of house music with the pioneers. Again, today we have Kirkland Townsend in the house, and he has some special guests. Kirk, who you got today?
Well, thank you, Lauren, and welcome, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you on WNUR FM. Also, we're going to make a little history tonight for you. We have some historic figures in the not just the house music genre, but also the entertainment industry genre. And it's Wayne Williams from the Chosen Few DJs, along with Jesse Saunders of the Chosen Few DJs as well. Both considered some of the originators of the house music genre. I would agree with that, and we hope you will too. So we hope that you're tuned in tonight. You're signed on. You can also locate us at WNUR.org or WNUR streetbeat.org. That also will lead you right to where we are. And right now, we thought we'd start off with a nice, smooth mix from 2010 from Wayne Williams. So how appropriate for a Monday night to come in and play a mix from Wayne, as well as talk to him a little bit. And we're going to teach you a little thing. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Go get a pad and a pencil. If you have a lie meter at home, you should engage your lie meter right now, because we're going to tell some stories that probably will fall under the auspices of fiction or nonfiction, depending on your perceptive. And we're going to share some stories of how these guys got started and what led them to where they are, especially with the advent of the Chosen Few Picnic coming up this Saturday in Jackson Park, which a good 40,000 people attend. So without further ado, we're just going to listen for another few more minutes to this mix from DJ Wayne Williams from 2010. 89.3 WNUR. We are live in the studio tonight with Wayne Williams and Jesse Saunders, some of the originators of house music. And away we go. Gentlemen, let's start with Wayne here. Mr. Williams.
That's DJ Wayne Williams.
Excuse me, DJ Wayne Williams. Would you give the audience just a little history of yourself?
Where you
want me to try this kitty for you? I tell you what year did you start DJing?
I started DJing in 1974.
1974. And what was the main influence that led you to DJing?
The main influence, wow. Well, when I first started, I was just going to a basement party that I had to go to because I was following my sister to her boyfriend's party. And so when I started, when he left to slow dance, that's, Kirk, remember when people used to slow dance?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God, what a lost art. Anyway, when they went off slow dance and the record would go off, because back then it was just one turntable, and I was back there, so I would put the next record on, and that just gave me the bug to see people dancing off the selection that I picked.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Well, what was I know that was Uric, and
yes,
and you were now at that point. Did you coin the phrase "the chosen few"?
No, not at all.
Not till later.
That was later on. Yeah.
Okay, so then there comes into play this gentleman sitting next to you, who happens to be your brother, and maybe you can introduce this young man.
This is the. How do you call yourself? The originator, the originator, baby. Jesse Saunders. Yes.
Jesse, why don't you say hi to the people for him? And
What's up? What's going on? You give me a little introduction like you did him. That always helps.
So Jesse, what year did you start DJing?
Oh gosh. Well, technically, I started in 1977, but when I really go back and I look at it, because I always say I never really wanted to be a DJ, but I look back at it like making, pause button remix tapes and always being the first at the record store to get whatever was new, making my own tapes and carrying my boombox. I guess I was I was a DJ in training as early as about probably 1972. But I didn't actually touch any turntables or do anything until Wayne brought them by and left them at the house, much to my mother's chagrin. And I learned how to do it. So that was about 1977.
Now, the reason why I'm starting back here is because I'm sure there's a multitude of people that are listening, tuned in. By the way, we also have a Facebook page that will link us to WNUR, and that is Modern Dance Music, their foundation, their Facebook page. You can go to that. There's a link there. Also, WNUR streetbeat.org /streetbeat.org. And that will also link you directly to tune in to us. And once we get closer to the end of this, we're going to take some calls and let people tell a lot of stories. I think no threats. We asked everybody keep the threats to a minimum. And
what kind of radio show is this?
For real.
A lot of DJs, man, in Chicago probably are tuned into this. And, how the still waters run deep. But anyway, we'll get to that a little bit later. But so Wayne, what was one of the biggest influences that led you to? Well, let me just say this. I know I can go back and remember when you guys first started playing records, and you always had kind of you didn't go for the standards, of music to play. You played a lot of the standard stuff too, but you always had a trend towards new, different European disco music and punk music and all the different genres that kind of combined led to what I consider to be the house music phenom. And give me an idea of the first record that probably set you on the path to playing mostly this type of music.
Well, I mean, let me say this to start off with. what got me on playing the new music, period, is the fact that when I entered high school, Mendel Catholic High School, and I started going to parties, back then at that time, the big DJ was none other than the person interviewing me now, which is Kirkland Townsend. And you would always play, Kirk, you would always play, not only you would play the current stuff, as well, but you would always play new music that we hadn't heard yet. From especially R&B, it could be a James Brown cut, it could be a cameo cut, it could be a funk cut, it could be, the various music, because you were pretty wide range in, you play disco as well. You play disco, you play R&B, you play funk, you play across the board. So, I guess, I know for a fact for me, when I started getting into disco, that was kind of what led me to finding and picking new music. The fact that you had done it, and that's what all the parties that I went to, because every party you DJ'd every party on the South Side. So, that's what I was accustomed to hearing. So I didn't know any better, pretty much, So that's what I knew.
Well, I'm glad you say that, but my influence, and anyone that knew me, I was a businessman. I was about the money, and I would DJ at an ashram if they paid well. But
let me add this, since you said that. I went to Kenwood in 1976 as a freshman. That summer, which would have been the following summer, 1977, I went to Mendel for the first time. And I was amazed to see all of these dance group, the Doctors, and everybody dancing out, because I had never really been anything like that. And then I look up on stage and I see this guy named Kirk Townsend, who at the time I didn't know who the hell he was, right? Okay, so then next thing I know is Wayne's like, talking about getting up on the turntables and doing this and that and whatever, and I'm like, well, how you DJ? I mean, what do you do? And I'm watching Chaos like, oh man, I can't do what he does. Because to me it looked like this big, huge. Because we're talking 2,000 kids or more, right?
3 to 4,
3 to 4,000, and
2,000 in the gym alone,
upstairs and a downstairs.
Yeah.
So I always tell people that was the first rave, because that was the first time I saw 2 DJs playing, at anything like that. But after that, next thing I know, Wayne's coming along telling me, let's grab your mixes and everything. We're DJing a party. So that was my introduction.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I got Jesse, the disco had pretty much taken off for me, and I think that it was important to I needed help, quite honestly, and no one in my crew at the time, WNUR, didn't want to play any disco, and Batman, just made speakers, and Jamie just drew the flyers. So
I disagree with that. I wouldn't say that Batman just made speakers. I think Batman was an enterprising young businessman at that time. No one had stock in Vaseline like he did at that point.
There you go. Here goes the stories. Here goes the story. Right. Exactly. But Batman, no, and in fairness, he did a lot of the parties with me, because he passed out flyers with me, and he was a promoter. He promoted with me. We promoted together, and but I needed help, and like I said, the influence as far as new music was you, and one of the reasons it was you, because you were in record pools before I even knew of record pools, and so you were able to get. You should expound on that, how you were able to get the new music from these record pools that you were in.
Well, it was a
before
hazard.
Anybody else?
It was a hazard too, because I had to keep you guys away from stealing records at my house too.
I was getting ready to go there.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. I'm sure you were. You probably got one of my records on you right now. But I started out in Discotheque, which was a big record pool on the north side, and Rocky Jones was involved, and Peter Lewicki, all the guys were at that time who were the big disco players, were in Discotheque, and then
Was that the first record pool?
I would say so, yes.
Okay.
The first big record pool in the city. Rocky, along with a couple of guys who were reps for major labels. And then Ernest Hale pulled my coat, and I left as well as a couple other guys, and we all went to the Dogs of War,
Yeah, I remember that.
which was founded by Eddie Thomas, who was one of the part owners of Curtime Records. And Rocky came on board, and a couple other guys. And Dogs of War was so huge. We used to have our meetings in the basement of McCormick Inn. And not only was it just that, but guys would bring stereo systems, and who could bring the biggest, who could bring the loudest, and you would play during during our meetings when we came to collect our records every week. And they would also feature all the brand new stuff. So you had to come with your A game. So when you come in with stuff like that, you pretty much so had to be on top of your game, on top of your music, and you had to study your music. So that was a lot of it where the new music came in for me. But
which was interesting for me because I wasn't in the record pool, so I had to search and find records and stuff. And when I would go over your house and me and Jesse would go over your house, we knew the regular copies, but you had the you had the promo copies with the longer extended versions, and we was like, okay, what's going on with this dude here? You know, we need that version. You know, and so Jesse had the sticky fingers. But anyway,
but exactly. But then you guys, would start going. You guys would start going to imports and gramophone and.
But even before that, to find that what you were getting to find that new music, that the soulful disco and things that were coming out of New York and Philadelphia and so on and so forth. Tell them about how you found that, Wayne.
Well, I mean, when I first when Craig Townsend gave a party at the Den One, that's where I met Ron Hardy. And so Ron Hardy would, I say, where do you get these, find this music and get these records? And so there were a couple of places. He asked me where I lived first, and at that time I was living in South Shore. And he said there's a record store on 71st Street, and then there's also one on the north side called Sounds Goods, and right off Belmont and Broadway. And that's where you can find the music. And then he said to hear the music, it was a gay club. The Den One was a gay club. He said, you're going to have to go to the gay club, because back then, straight people were really listening to disco music, and they surely weren't going to gay clubs. So he said, you have to go to the gay club on the, and by my house was a gay bar called the Jeffrey Pub, where Gene White and Michael Ezebuku were the DJs.
Who was here with us last week, Michael. I interviewed Michael last week.
Oh, cool.
And Mike told a lot of history, a lot of good stories.
Sure.
Yeah.
What year did he start?
Mike said he was kind of a late bloomer. He said he didn't start till like 76, 77. And but once he got rolling, he was already at Columbia College, so he had learned to mix, and he had did a lot of different things. So by the time he got to the Jeffrey Pub, and he had met Gene White, whose father was, like the branch manager at CBS Records, and he took him in the studios,
and I met Gene before I met Michael.
I did too,
and because I think Gene was at the Jeffrey Pub before Michael.
Absolutely, God rest his soul, and I miss my buddy Gene, and Gene introduced me to Michael as
too.
well.
That's
and,
funny, me too.
Yeah, so it was interesting, and but another funny story was how this all came about. I'm interviewing these guys, but I gotta tell this one side of the story, and I don't want this to be about me at all. This is about you guys. But there was this young skinny kid, and he used to always come, man, let me DJ. And I'm like, get away from me. No, man, let me DJ. No, man, get out of here. So one day, and probably in the summer of 77, Jesse and Wayne came to Mendel, and my mom happened to be there on stage with me. And my mom saw Jesse, and turns out my mother had been Jesse's nurse. She was a nurse for a pediatrician, and she turned out to be his nurse, and we also turned out to be family. So, then I said, okay, all right, I'll let him DJ. But, the main thing was you guys were already on your way. I was just giving you some.
Well, hold on. You don't understate it, because to understand why we really wanted to DJ at Mendel, you got to understand, I mean, First of all, you were DJing all over the city. You were the only DJ at that. You were the top DJ, and you were the only DJ at that time that I was aware of that was playing, a variety of music and was top. You're the top DJ. So every party, everybody booked you, and everybody would go to. But Mendo, out of all the parties you did, that became like the pinnacle of all the different spots you DJ'd, and so who wouldn't want, as a DJ, as a young DJ, who wouldn't want to DJ with you at this pinnacle spot? Which of course you told me pretty much get the hell out of here. But hey, you gotta ask. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Well, if you remember, the first time you asked was when I was at St. Albie.
St. Albie's.
I was at St. Albie's,
Yeah.
and you worked across the street at White Hen Pantry.
Right.
And you would come over to the party after you got off work, and I'd tell you to bring over some of the pudding.
Right.
And see, we got to share these stories amongst people
Right.
so that they know the reality. And one of the key things that I want to get to going forward is how much fun we had, and how I wish these younger people nowadays, because I think you would agree with me, I've seen there's like another generation of house, or what they call themselves now, house heads. We never used that terminology. We didn't know what a house head was. But now these people who call themselves house heads, this is probably a fourth, fifth, and sixth generation of people listening to this brand of music or this genre of music. And tell me, man, I asked this earlier, we got away from it. What's the first, I got an idea in my mind what the first record, what's the first record that kind of made you think you were doing something different and something special?
Probably it was either My Love Is Free or Dance and Shake Your Tambourine.
Okay.
Those are the two that and Get Off, 5C. I think that came later though. But
That was a little bit later.
Yeah, it was a little bit later. But Get Off was like the first edit though for me. And Jesse, that's the first edit we kind of did together. And so that's why that record is an impact record for me.
Okay.
But before then, disco wise, it was My Love Is Free or Dance and Shake Your Tambourine. Yeah.
What about you, Jess?
The first record for me that kind of changed everything, because it was kind of a hybrid for me. It had a rap in it, then it was instrumental, and it was disco, but it had a different kind of feel, and that was TSOB. That just kind of completely changed the game for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know what TSOB is, and also that was a takeoff of Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, or MFSB's version of Love Is the Message. And it's interesting. I go, but what people start listening to later on.
No, I'm talking about the other one. What's the other one?
What?
Master
What?
C and J. Who was that?
Oh, Master C and J.
Master C. No, not Master C and J, but the dang, I can't think of their doggone names.
Who?
The record.
Come
This
on,
is-
one,
saying
two, three, are
TSO.
you ready?
Yeah,
That's TSOB.
TSOB. Yeah.
That's TSOB.
Yeah, but who was it? though? Who's the
That's
artist?
who it was. TSOB. Master. It was
Master
Master
something.
J and
Master J and something. Yeah,
Master
that's
J
the one
and
I'm
Michael
thinking
D.
of.
Master
Yeah.
J and Michael D.
Yeah, that's the
And
one I
Michael
was
D,
thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hear a lot of the music that they play now that they consider house music. And when I was playing, it was like a current song. You know, we played currently, like, you know, I Can't Turn Around, Isaac Hayes, and Down to Love Town, and Rolling Down the Mountainside. I remember playing that on 45. 45. Does anybody remember what a 45 is? You know, there's a lot of different things, which is actually good because good music will be around forever. It'll never go away. But I think one of the first things that really brought my attention to music moving in that direction was probably Martin Circus. You know, and it was just a beat because not only with the DJing, you know, I was renting equipment too. So I rented equipment to a lot of the gay DJs, vis-a-vis Gene and Michael, Craig Cannon, a lot of guys that played on the circuits, like the underground circuits, like I forget the name of the place. I remember it was the 175 West Randolph on the 5th floor. That was dangerous too when you think about it. They had one elevator you had to take up, take
Right,
down.
yeah, I remember that.
Thing would break down, folks be climbing out of windows and stuff. But the building would be sweating, and then one thing I want to mention too, Wayne, I know you DJed a lot. You started going to a lot of the gay clubs and playing records and trying to play. I know you started doing stuff at the Jeffrey Pub and the Bitter End, and
then I DJ for a gay women's organization called Executive Suite as well. I did their parties for about 7-8 years, and so.
Shout out to Vera and Pat and Pam if they're out there.
Right.
Listening.
Hello.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know.
Yeah.
So, but just like you said, it was an interesting time. But whatever reason, I can't explain it. But we never had that homophobia. You know, we kind of went wherever we wanted to go. You know, we didn't think about it. You know, and we just we just loved the music. It was about the music, period. And we accepted it didn't matter the race, creed, sex, whatever. It didn't make us any difference. It was truly about the spirit of music that we had in our souls, you know.
Well, and there was another flip to that coin as well. One, even though it was all stemming from an underground gay scene, but the gays paid well, paid on time, paid. So, that made all the difference in the world as well, where there was a lot of shady promoters out there that you'd be lucky if you would get paid because, quite frankly, their expenses were just too high, man.
Extremely too high.
Much too high.
Much too high.
So,
that's an inside joke, y'all.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, speaking of that, let's move a little bit forward. So, Jesse, you had your chance. Now, it all comes and goes in waves and circles, but just like, I was doing the parties in Mendel for 3,000 to 4,000 kids every Saturday night, which is historic in a way because, there'll never be a situation like that again. But you also had your chance to do that as well at the playground. When the playground opened up, what year did the playground open up?
1982.
82, and you were the resident DJ there, correct?
Well, Farley and I. They actually kind of took turns there.
I thought initially when they first opened, it was strictly you.
No, when it initially first opened, Farley and I were there. Then I wasn't there, and he was just there. Then he wasn't there, and I was just there. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Who did the grand opening of the opening party of the playground?
That was me, Farley, and Frankie.
I was gonna say Frankie did that too as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
1982.
the playground, for those who didn't know, was a medium-sized. I would say probably held maybe 1,000 to 1,200 people, and it was on the second floor at 14th and Michigan, on the east side of the street, and they did every Friday, Saturday night, and when the disco scene really started going more towards house, they entertained not just playing music, but also a lot of live music. I remember one of the better concerts I saw there was the New York City Peach Boys.
Peach Boys, don't make me wait.
Don't make me wait. And
Another night.
they just tore the house up.
Yeah, it was
But
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, but the playground was kind of the culmination of Sawyer's, which was a restaurant which we turned into our own team disco on Fridays and Saturdays.
And they had one of the best hamburgers in the city.
I never ate there.
If you never got to have lunch at Sawyer's.
No.
Yeah.
I never ate there.
Oh,
Ain't
man.
there at all. But yeah, we kind of, Craig and I got that place in 81 after Vince Lawrence and what was old boy that had the record store on 71st and Jeffrey? He had the crew. Together with his name.
Oh God, what's his
I can't think of his name, but they had a crew. And they did this party at Sawyer's and 600 people showed up and they used like a pizza party or something or Izod or
I'm
Preppy,
trying to
something,
remember who
whatever
that
it was. And it was successful.
Was it Vince?
Yeah, Vince and these other guys. It was
No,
a crew.
the other Vince.
was RSS?
Oh, it was Vince.
It was Vince.
No, it wasn't RSS for us.
No, it
another
was
Vince.
Vince.
That other Vince that had
Yeah,
the record store.
yeah.
Who had the Tree of Life and
I can't remember. It'll come
Can't
to
think of
us.
his name.
But they threw a party over there. It was successful. And Craig turns to me and said, "Listen, man, why don't you go down there and check out like how many more dates they have?" So we went down there and looked at the books. I said, "Oh, it looks pretty open after this." He's like, "Okay, let's book up all the dates for the rest of the year."
Wow.
And we pretty much locked most people out. And the playground came right after that because he just wanted a place to control as opposed to having to, deal with another owner or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but
So
the playground was kind of historic in the fact that it really kind of united all sides of the city. We had kids that I had never really seen from the west side, the north side. They were all punked out and, prepped out or whatever it may be. It was just kind of everybody enjoying any style of music. That's what I love most about it, was that I could play pretty much anything I wanted.
Well, not only that, not only Sawyer's though, First Impressions kind of fueled into the playground as well, because First Impressions was really where we exploded the punk music and the punk scene.
Absolutely.
And also we were on the radio on WXFM at that time as well. But it was the Herb Kent Punk Out show, where me and you did mixes and stuff like that.
Herb Kent.
Yeah. And that was a really good time. Everybody wore their Izod's and their penny loafers and make sure you had a quarter in your penny loafers and members only jackets.
And that was kind of the time that, from a Batman and Wayne perspective, that's where the goodies were grown from.
Absolutely. Goodie
Please
fast,
explain what the goodie is.
Yeah. Wayne, what is a goodie?
You know what? I tell you exactly the reason I actually came up with the name Goody. And I came up with it because I saw that the Izod Fest had got, it was a huge, big party. And then, what was the other? It was Izod, what was the other animal? Oh, Polo.
The Polo.
Then it was the Polo Fest. Then I'm like, these kids are coming to a fest because of a label? I mean, I couldn't believe that, right? So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to make up a name and see if that'll work, And so, because that really irritated me, because I just couldn't believe those people came there because Izod was popular at the time, but it was a trendy thing. But I couldn't believe they came there because of clothes. That just blew me away. So I said, I'm just gonna make up a name. Is it that easy? I'm gonna see. And so I put out me and Batman. I got Batman to go in with me because that's my road dog. So I first put out, I said, they're not going to really know what it is, though. I said, so we have to come up with a thing. So I came up with this Goody Fest is coming. So I put them flyers out. Goody Fest is coming, Goody Fest. People are like, what's a Goody Fest? What's a Goody? And then we must have advertised that for 3 months, that Goody Fest is coming. And then the next, the 4th month, we put Goody Fest is here. And then we gave the flyer when the Goody. And so people had, because of what is Goody Fest, people wanted to know that energy. And then when they found out that it was here, man, I mean, everybody and their mama tried to come to that party. It was an amazing party, and that's when I understood for the very first time marketing, and that
the power of marketing.
The power of marketing, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Wayne, since you're on that, I know at one time. So let me just fast forward a little bit here. So we're going to go into the aspect of house music where house music is now being produced. And you skip forward to maybe 1982, 83. Jesse, you're in a group called Z Factor with Vince Lawrence. And you guys put a record together called Fast Cars. And
Wait. First off, First Cars I had nothing to do with that. That was Vince's.
Oh, that was all
Vince?
Vince?
That was Vince's thing. That was his graduation present from Mitch, to record a song.
Oh, Mitch Ball?
And have Vince tell it. It ended up at 145 BPMs because his drummer played too fast. He really wanted it to be like 120 BPMs and to sound like the stuff he heard me playing.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not buying that at all.
But, okay. I'm just reiterating what he said.
Right,
So.
I'm not buying that one. Sorry, Vince. If you're out there, Vince, you hear this, I'm not buying that. No sale.
But okay. So yeah, that's how that came about. And at the time, Vince came to me with this record and said, would you play it for me? Well, I took one, listened to it, and was like, well, how am I supposed to play this? Because it just didn't fit into anything, right? But I was like, shoot, I don't know anybody else that made a record, so I got to at least try to, throw it on. So I threw it on, and he started hanging out, and I guess I was his new best friend and whatnot. He became my light guy, and then I got the idea to kind of make. I had written fantasy, and I wanted to like figure out how to make a record myself. So Vince was right there, and he told me the whole process. And at that point, he had told his father, because he had Z Factor already. He had said that he wanted me to be in the band now and this and that, and I had never been in a band, so I'm like, what the heck, whatever. So I did that, and I figured that was a way to get my record out on Mitch Ball. Little did I know it wouldn't get out until about a year later, and in the interim, I got kind of upset at it and put out On and On. So Fantasy should have been the first one.
So On and On, by most accounts, is considered like the first produced house song. Not just the music that was played at the warehouse, but now we're taking the genre in a whole nother direction where we're starting to produce tracks and produce records, and it's taking on a life of its own. And arguably that's what most.
Let me say this first before that even happened. It was like the term house in itself has many people trying to say that they actually came up with the term. I mean, it comes from the warehouse, or it was a bin at Imports, etc. Chip E says this, Farley says that, or whatever. We were calling the warehouse the house for many years before they came on the scene, first off. So when that term, and I didn't call On and On a house record at the time because there was no house music really in it, other than the fact that people say, that house, that music that comes from the house or whatever. So for me, it was just kind of, we were doing a little something different. I was making tracks that I could actually mix in and out of. It wasn't like I was trying to make the song. I did an earlier interview today, and it was the similar type of question that they asked me about it. And I was like, well, I wasn't trying to originate a genre. I wasn't trying to make a new style of music. I was just doing something that I felt needed to be done for me as a DJ to be able to play music in a more progressive fashion and to get to other styles. And it just so happened that particular thing became something that other people were going around looking for, and Frank Sells over at Imports, etc., who was, the guy who sold you all records, Frank Sells, right? He told me that there was something that I was playing that people were coming in there asking for, and I had no idea what it was, and made a tape. Somebody identified, he asked me, and he tells me, well, we could probably sell about 300 or 400 of these if you could get your hands on some. So that's when I went to Vince and said, how do we make a record? So that whole terminology for me came about after the fact.
Of course, Wayne is chomping at the bit here. Jump right in there, cowboy.
Well, a few things, right? The first thing is that the warehouse, Frankie never played house music per se. He played disco.
Yes.
Because the warehouse was from 77 to about 81,
sure.
82. So the terminology for me for genre house music is, because of the drum machine, created a whole different sound than disco did, because disco is made with live instrumentation, live drummers, and a drum machine is electronic instrument that has a completely different sound. And so it's a whole different, it's starting a genre, just like you start jazz, just like you start country or classical or any other genre. It's based on an instrument or a technology that creates a different sound than that's currently out. So, and not only that, it takes a life of its own. It takes, and then other people start to do the same and make the same sort of sound. So to me, that's the distinction musically. But as far as the term house is concerned, way before Frankie even came to Chicago, people heard disco in basement parties on the South Side. It could
absolutely.
Be Peel Hill. It could be South Commons. It could be Jackson Highlands, where we all used to do the parties.
Absolutely.
All over. So, and they would say, "Hey, they play that house music there," because disco being heard on the South Side was a different thing, because you have to understand, back in the mid '70s, you didn't hear it that often. So you would hear, the music of the time was funk and soul and R&B. So when it was a natural distinction for people on the South Side when they heard disco coming out of these houses to say, "Oh, That's what they playing those basement parties. Those new teenagers are playing in their houses. They would give their parties. And so to me, that's the first time I heard it being called house music. And quite honestly, it was a derogatory term.
Well, and when you go back to the late to mid 70s, early to mid 70s rather, there wasn't a lot of disco around, until it exploded. I mean, you had some salsa stuff, you had the early Philadelphia International stuff, you had Hamilton Bohannon, like Let's Start to Dance, Van McCoy's Hustle, different things like that. And a lot of that came out of, absolutely, it came out of New York swing, That's what they called it in New York swing, where, they hustled and they, and how all the different things they did there. And God, I remember going to New York early and hearing Shep Pettibone do a mix on WBLS and had never, heard that in Chicago before. And by the time I get back, Disco DAI kicked in, and now you got Peter Lewicki and all.
What year did
Lou
DAI
DeVito
start?
I'm sorry?
What year?
76 maybe?
76.
Yeah, right at the advent of the disco era, and before, and then like by the 79 came around, they were blowing up disco records. So, with Disco Demolition.
Yeah, it may have been a little earlier. Maybe been 75.
Late 75, early.
Yeah.
I know, like Hit and Run. One of the first 12 inches I remember seeing came out like late 75, early 76. So,
right.
But anyway, let's move along because we're running short on time, and I want to get you guys up to where you guys are now. Some got 30, almost 40 years later, and still loving and doing your thing in this business. God bless you both. Because I just couldn't stick around that long. But now with the Chosen Few Picnic, that is a huge house music phenom within itself, or dance music phenom within itself, because you have so many different DJs, so many different performers that bring a lot of different arrays to the table at the picnic, which I think is just a fabulous feat within itself. And with it coming up this Saturday, the 25th anniversary, just give us a quick little history of where and how that started.
The picnic?
Yes, with the picnic.
You want to go to? Well,
let me start with this. It's funny because the picnic itself started out of kind of the Hatchett's family reunion 4th of July thing. But even prior to that, I think it was, maybe the year before, that winter before, we decided that we wanted to kind of do a get-together, of everybody.
Everybody had graduated, went off to college.
Went off to college.
We didn't
had
see
their
each
own
other
lives.
anymore.
Tony went to Houston.
Yes.
I was in L.A. I think Wayne you were still here in Chicago at that time.
Yeah.
But and we hadn't played together in years at that point.
Absolutely.
It had been at least maybe 5-6 years.
Maybe longer
Longer than that.
Yeah.
At least maybe 6 or 7. And so anyway, we were like, okay, well, let's throw a party and see if we can get everyone together. And we wanted to do it like we used to do back then, in like a loft style type of thing and whatnot. But it was about 10 degrees below zero. This loft we picked had no heat. They had one space heater.
Wow.
You two decided that you were going to gangster the bar.
Well, I don't know about that. All I know is it was beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Wait a minute, go ahead.
We
Wait a
want
minute.
to share in the festivities.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, this is typical of the previous 10 years of our life.
Right.
Kind of coming back full circle.
Right.
And we're starting it over again.
Right. What you think, boss man? So,
So I'm on the phone, and I get a call, and it's like, so we're going to do the bar at your party.
well, Jesse, it was nothing personal. You know my motto: cut me in or cut it out.
So anyway, we decided it was me, Alan, Tony, Kim. And we decided to throw this party. Wayne decided he wanted to gangster the bar along with Kirk, so we were all involved once again in different ways.
Too.
Well, yeah, you were DJ, but I'm saying. So it was like supposed to be a $1 party or a $2 party or something.
And I think I swept and cleaned up afterwards.
Well, you know
So-
what? Hold on, Jesse. So Jesse was living in L.A., so he wanted to come to Chicago where we were living, right? And throw a party with really out including us without including us in any
He
of
didn't
the
even consult
benefits.
us.
Right.
You know, even the mob,
right.
kicks up a tribute to the.
So Kirk has
So was I supposed to come and kiss the ring?
Absolutely.
Kirk said, he came up with a great idea. He said, well, you don't have any.
They were going to give away beer.
They were going to give away beer. He said, you don't have any alcohol at the party. So, maybe we could come together and, let's bring some alcohol and sell alcohol,
And we all make some money.
And we all make some money. And Jesse, being who Jesse is, pretty selfish. Jesse, was like, okay, but I get all the money because it's my party. And we said, Kirk being the negotiator that he is, was like, well, no, not necessarily. This is how this is going to go down. We're going to come in, sell the alcohol, and make the money, and who the blank is going to stop us?
So it was. The night unfolds. There's nobody there for like the first 2 or 3 hours. And we're freezing to death. And next thing you know,
we think we're out money.
exactly, you all lost it. I'm sitting there like, okay, you gangster, now you lost money too.
Exactly.
But anyway, so at about 10 minutes to 12, all of a sudden, it's just like lying down the block, people coming in. I mean, it's turned out to be one of the best parties, like, especially because of the time that we hadn't been together. But everybody had such a good time. And the first thing, Tony and I living in warmer climates are like, okay, this was nice, but we're definitely not doing this in the winter again.
And you know what? We were very glad that you all decided not to come back and do it. I'd hate to have to put you in that kind of predicament all over again. I can't ruin you for life, son. But listen, we're getting, man, we can go on and
But
on.
wait a minute, let me get to the summer part of it. So after that, Wayne kind of took over the whole thing and said, well, we should make it a Chosen Few event. And then we kind of gangstered the Hatchet, 4th of July event. And here we are today.
And it was nice because even though it was quaint, but we all got together. We go play football, we play softball,
nice.
and we'd have a ball. Everybody would get to meet each other's families. And by that point, we all were starting to have families and do things like that. But
the party kind of proved like they still like us.
Still like us, exactly.
So we was like, okay,
Exactly.
But I think that back to your original statement, Kirk, when you started this show tonight. We all have a genuine love for each other.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And we all have, and because of the spirit of love that is in us, that's why, I feel we've always, won out, because, we're humble and we like to have fun, and we want other people to have fun and a good time too. And as long as you put other people first and they enjoy what you do and you do you do great things to make people happy and have fun, I think things turn out right.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Listen, guys, we've run out of time. Wayne actually was going to spin live in here, but we got into talking about it.
Come on, you
but
only gave us an hour.
you can, I tell you what,
We could've
you
done
can
all
wait
that.
till Saturday and come see them spin live at the Chosen Few Picnic
There you
at
go.
Jackson Park. It'll be out there all day long. You can come help yourself. This has been a true pleasure for me to put me back in the saddle again. This is the reason I left DJing. I got into radio, and I didn't love DJing no more. I loved radio.
We are so happy.
Absolutely.
At the Dance Music Foundation.
And I want to thank you, Lauren, and Charles, and everybody else, and Cameron, our producer extraordinaire, for having us on board. I know you're going to tell them about the people that are going to come up, because you'll be doing this every Monday throughout the rest of the month. And gentlemen, I just want to thank you both for coming out. And
Just want to say you can still buy tickets online.
ChosenFewDJs.com.
cha-ching, a shameless plug.
Right.
A shameless plug.
Thank you guys for inviting us. We don't get up north too often, and we always, it's a citywide event. We love everybody. So we appreciate the invitation, and we hope to see you all there on July 4th, Saturday, starting at 6 a.m. till 9 p.m.
And by the way, I do love both of you guys, always. Lauren, thank you. And to those listening, I hope you had a ball. I've enjoyed doing this for tonight and last Monday. And, I truly appreciate it. And thank you. And God bless you all.
Kirk, we cannot thank you enough. We have to give it up for Kirk Townsend.
Kirk Townsend!
Bringing in the history
Let's go.
of house music. That's what the Dance Music Foundation is all about. And again, thanks to Jesse and Wayne. We really look forward to seeing them on Saturday. What time are you all spinning?
Gates open at 6 a.m. We start the music at 8.
What time do you spin? Jesse, what time is Jesse
That's a
spin?
surprise. That's a surprise. You just got to come out
Two
in the
Hey,
morning.
let me tell you, Lauren, Jesse does the lineup, so this is what's going on, just so you know.
Come
Okay.
on now.
So Jesse's the headliner, in other words.
No.
All right, well,
Me and
guys,
Wayne do the.
thank you all so much again. Check out the Dance Music Foundation at Twitter at Dance Music Found. Figure out what we're about. We're a collecting archive dedicated to the preservation and the history of house music. We are looking forward to Mike Serafini coming on the mic next week. Lori Branch, come on through. She'll be live mixing, bring in some other phenomenal pioneers. Have a great night.
Okay, Michael Serafini, he's in next with his regular show. It's a minute before 11 o'clock, WNUR FM, Evanston, Chicago.